Here's something that'll mess with your head. You finally get that raise you've been grinding for. 6 months later, you're somehow more broke than before. Your income went up 20%, but you feel poorer. What the hell is going on? Turns out there's actual science behind this. And it's not what you think. This isn't about budgeting apps or cutting your coffee habit. This is about behavioral finance and how your brain is literally wired to sabotage your wealth-building strategy. I'm going to show you why smart people stay broke and how understanding financial decision-making from a psychology angle changes everything. Let's get into it. So here's the first thing you need to understand. Back in 1954, this psychologist named Leon Festinger introduced something called social comparison theory. Basically, humans are hardwired to judge themselves by looking at other people. That's not a character flaw, that's biology. Your ancestors survived by knowing where they ranked in the tribe. Too low? You don't get resources. Too high? You become a target. But here's where it gets dangerous in 2025. Your grandparents compared themselves to maybe 10 people? Their neighbors, their co-workers, a couple folks from church. You're comparing yourself to 10,000 people every single day. Every time you open Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you're getting algorithmically fed the highlight reel of people richer, hotter, more successful than you. And your brain doesn't know these are curated illusions. It thinks that's the standard. This is what Morgan Housel calls the expectations gap. And it's killing your money mindset without you even realizing it. Now let me introduce you to something called the anchoring effect, discovered by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky back in 1974. Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for this stuff, so pay attention. Here's how it works. Your brain latches onto the first piece of information it gets. That becomes your anchor. Everything else gets measured against that anchor. So when you're scrolling and you see someone your age buying a Tesla, taking a trip to Bali, living in a high-rise apartment, your brain doesn't think that's an outlier. Your brain thinks, oh, that's what normal looks like now. And suddenly, your decent apartment feels like a dump. Your reliable Honda feels embarrassing. Your life feels small. But here's the kicker. That anchor is completely artificial. You're letting an algorithm designed to maximize engagement, not your happiness, set your financial expectations. And when your real income can't match that fake anchor, you do something incredibly destructive. You spend money you don't have, to chase a lifestyle you can't afford, to impress people who aren't even paying attention. Which brings me to the Ferrari story. Morgan Housel worked as a valet at a 5-star hotel in L.A. when he was 19. And he had this realization that changed how he thought about money forever. He'd see these guys pull up in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, 6-figure cars. And his first instinct? He'd stop and stare at the car. But he never looked at the driver and thought, wow, that guy is so cool. Instead, he'd imagine himself driving it. He'd picture people looking at him and thinking he was successful. Then one day, it hit him. He didn't care about the driver, but he wanted to be the driver because he thought other people would care about him. You see the insanity? Nobody's actually thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, imagining how cool they'd look if they had your stuff. This is what economist Thorstein Veblen called conspicuous consumption back in 1899. We buy expensive things not because they make us happy, but because we think they signal status. Except they don't. Jeffrey Miller, an evolutionary psychologist, explains it like this. Buying luxury goods is like a peacock's tail. Expensive, impractical, but it signals genetic fitness. Except in modern society, that signal is broken. Your wife doesn't care what car you drive. Your real friends don't care what jeans you bought. The only people impressed by your stuff are strangers who are too busy worrying about their own image to actually think about you. So you're trapped in this cycle. You're spending money to impress people who aren't impressed because they're trying to impress you with stuff you don't care about. It's a game nobody wins, but everybody keeps playing. All right, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Let me tell you about two Nobel Prize-winning concepts that explain why personal finance investing is so hard and what actually works. First, hyperbolic discounting. This was studied by Richard Thaler, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2017. Here's the idea. Your brain values immediate rewards way more than future rewards, like disproportionately more. If I offered you $50 today or $100 in a year, most people take the 50, even though waiting is objectively smarter. This is why saving money feels impossible. Buying those new sneakers gives you a dopamine hit right now. But retirement? That's some abstract concept 30 years away. Your brain literally discounts the future. It's called hyperbolic discounting, and it's why willpower alone doesn't work for long-term investing psychology. But here's what does work. Thaler introduced something called nudge theory. Instead of relying on willpower, you change the default setting. Morgan Housel puts it perfectly. Automate your savings. The moment you get paid, automatically move money into savings. Take emotion out of the system. Because here's the truth. Your willpower is a finite resource. Every day you have to decide whether to save or spend. You're going to lose that fight eventually. But if it's automatic, you never have to fight. The decision is already made. This is wealth-building strategy at its core. Not complicated formulas, just behavior design. Now let me tell you about the hedonic treadmill. This concept comes from psychologists Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell, and it's one of the most depressing and liberating ideas in psychology. In 1978, Brickman did this famous study. He interviewed people who won the lottery and people who became paralyzed in accidents. Guess what he found? 1 year later, both groups returned to roughly the same baseline level of happiness they had before their life changed. Lottery winners weren't happier. Accident victims weren't as miserable as you'd think. Your brain adapts. It's called hedonic adaptation. You get a raise, you're happy for like 3 weeks. Then your brain recalibrates. That's the new normal. Now you need more to feel that same boost. You upgrade your apartment. You're thrilled for a month. Then you notice your neighbor has a better view. The cycle starts again. This is why making more money doesn't fix the problem. If your expectations rise at the same rate as your income, or faster, you'll always feel broke. Will Smith talked about this in his autobiography. When he was young and depressed, he'd tell himself, "If only I had more money, everything would be okay." That gave him hope. Then he became one of the biggest movie stars on the planet, rich beyond imagination. And he was still depressed, except now he couldn't say, "If only I had more money." He lost even that hope. The treadmill doesn't stop. You're always running. You're never arriving unless you step off. So how do you step off? Morgan Housel has this framework that completely changed how I think about spending. Every dollar you spend falls into one of two buckets. Bucket 1, money that makes you and your family happier. Food, experiences, health, time with people you love. Bucket 2, money spent to impress other people, most of whom are strangers who don't care. Before you buy anything, ask yourself, which bucket is this? Because here's what's wild. The stuff in bucket 2, the status stuff, doesn't actually make you happier. Studies prove this. Luxury purchases give you a short dopamine spike, then you adapt. Back to baseline. But bucket one, that's where the ROI is. A great meal with your family. A book that changes how you think. Therapy. A mattress that helps you sleep better. That's emotional intelligence in finance, knowing what actually moves the needle on your well-being. And here's the thing about independence. Morgan says his only financial goal is independence. Not a big house, not a fancy car, just the ability to wake up and say, I can do whatever I want today. Every dollar you save is a piece of your future you own. Every dollar of debt is a piece of your future someone else owns. Think about that. When you're paying off a credit card for a sweater you bought 2 years ago and don't even wear anymore, you're giving away hours of your life, your time, your freedom. For what? Let's talk about compound interest for a second, because this is where portfolio management and asset allocation actually matter. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. Greatest investor of all time. Nobody's even close. Here's the part that'll blow your mind. 99% of his wealth was accumulated after his 60th birthday. When he was 60, he was already a billionaire, wildly successful by any measure. But the bulk of his fortune came in the last 34 years. Why? Compound interest. You earn returns on your returns. Your money makes money. Then that money makes money. It's exponential growth. But here's the secret most people miss. It's not about earning higher returns than everyone else. It's about time. Morgan's parents are a perfect example. No finance background, no inside information, no Ivy League degrees. They just invested consistently every month for 40 years. Index funds, boring, basic. And their returns put them in the top tier of all investors. Not because they were smarter, because they were more patient. If you can be an average investor for an above-average period of time, you'll end up in the top 1%. That's the game. But you can't play it if you're constantly pulling money out to fund a lifestyle you can't afford. Here's where cognitive biases and loss aversion destroy people. Danny Kahneman proved that humans feel losses about twice as intensely as gains. Losing $100 hurts way more than winning $100 feels good. This is why people panic sell when the market drops. They see their portfolio down 10% and their brain screams, danger. So they sell. But here's the thing about the stock market. The cost of admission is volatility. You're going to see your account go up and down. That's not a bug. That's the feature. If you want stable, predictable returns, put your money in a savings account. You'll get maybe 1%. Safe, boring. If you want 8, 10, 12% average returns over decades, you got to stomach the roller coaster. Morgan says he keeps about half his net worth in stocks. The rest is cash and bonds. Why? Because his goal isn't maximizing returns on a spreadsheet. His goal is sleeping well at night. He's got young kids. If something catastrophic happened, job loss, medical emergency, whatever, that cash cushion means his kids don't suffer. That's wealth, not the number in your brokerage account. Wealth is independence. Wealth is sleeping at night. Wealth is not being beholden to anyone else's timeline or expectations. And you don't need millions to start building that. Let me tell you about Ronald Reed. This guy spent his entire career as a janitor and a gas station attendant. Came from poverty, no connections, no fancy education. When he died, he left $8 million to charity. How? He saved what little he could. $10 here, $20 there, invested in index funds, left it alone for 70 years. That's it. That's the whole story. No secret formula, no insider trading, just patience and discipline. This is what I mean when I say wealth mindset beats intelligence every single time. You don't need to be smart. You need to control your behavior. And controlling your behavior starts with controlling your expectations. So let me bring this full circle. You're not bad with money. Your brain is designed to make you feel like you're falling behind. Social comparison. Anchoring. Hyperbolic discounting. Hedonic adaptation. These aren't character flaws. These are evolutionary features that made sense 10,000 years ago, but are absolutely screwing you in the Instagram age. But now you know. You know that happiness isn't about having more. It's about wanting less. You know that nobody's thinking about you as much as you think they are. You know that every dollar spent to impress strangers is a dollar stolen from your future freedom. And you know that financial freedom isn't about hitting some magic number. It's about narrowing the gap between your expectations and your reality. Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest minds in history, said it best. My expectations were reduced to 0 when I was 21. Everything since has been a bonus. The guy couldn't move, couldn't speak without a computer, had every reason to be bitter. And he was one of the happiest people you'd ever meet, because his expectations were so low that everything else felt like a gift. You don't need to experience tragedy to learn that lesson. You just need to step off the treadmill, stop comparing, stop chasing, stop letting algorithms tell you what your life should look like. Define enough for yourself. Automate your savings. Invest in boring index funds. Be patient, and use money as a tool to build independence, not as a yardstick to measure yourself against people who don't even care. That's the brutal truth. Earning more won't make you feel rich unless you fix your psychology first. All right, so here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one thing you're spending money on right now that's bucket 2? The stuff you're buying to impress other people? Be honest. No judgment. I've done it too. And if this video helped you see money differently, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear this, because this isn't the stuff they teach in school. I've got more videos breaking down behavioral economics, passive income strategies, and how to actually build wealth without losing your mind. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And remember, you've got everything you need right now to start winning the money game. You just got to play it smarter. I'll see you in the next one.